I know everyone kind of noticed that, hey, we had an amazing week last week. I thought the episode that you guys did with Jennifer was amazing. Everything that you guys kind of brought together, Jeff. So I want to say good morning, everybody. Jeff, so happy to see you, brother.
Yeah,
Hopefully your
same here,
internet's
bud.
been working last week. I didn't get to see
No.
any disconnections, but you know what? It's Monday. We're almost close to Christmas. I think we got what, like 23 or 27 days left till the end of the year. Let's go.
Let's do this.
Centurion Trucking, our motto is people before profit. Today's market requires more transparency. Welcome to the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
There's got to be a little technical.
Myself, man. Yeah, he's back. He's a little rusty.
You got to kind of go from there. But just want to say good morning to our homeboy, Daman. So happy to see you here this morning.
Morning.
Lisa, amazing to see you here this morning again. So, like I said, I was taken out last week, but, I'm back ready for it. And I think we'll be able to bring a lot of value as we're kind of going into the holiday season. Jeff, how's your weekend, my friend? What'd you get up to?
Oh, it was great. Went and saw a comedian on Friday night, went out to dinner on Saturday night, went to a casino, did very, very well. Yesterday, just sat back, relaxed, watched some football, me time, we got to have that kind of thing. How about you, man? How you feeling?
So for people who don't know, like I got for the first time in ever for me, I got COVID. So I knew it wasn't. I was telling Jeff off air that when I normally get sick, it's like usually 2 days: the cough, the sore throat, the fever, all that stuff, and then I'm good by like day 3, and I'm ready to bounce back. But every single day, I had like a different symptom. So I was like, you know what? Let me test for COVID. So I did test positive, and it's been a roller coaster, but I think I'm over it. Kind of getting over to the. I'm still testing. I'm still checking every day, but still testing positive. But it's one of those things where hey man, it is what it is. So I'm a lot better to kind of see everybody back here this weekend. I wish it was as fun as yours, my friend, but just stayed home, took meds, hung out, watched a lot of Christmas movies. Has anybody seen the new Santa Claus TV show on Disney Plus? Like that was pretty
the
awesome.
Santa Clauses?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. No, I haven't. No,
Tim Allen, man. It's you guys got to check it out. They're doing like a TV show, so it's not a movie. So it's been something that
so it's like a series.
Yeah, it's like a TV show. It's basically a 30-minute TV show. And the stupid thing that we kind of did is that there's 4 episodes out, and we watched all 4 episodes, but the 4th episode leaves on a cliffhanger. So we're like, oh shoot, why don't we just wait one more week, right? And then we would have got episode 5. But
is that when the sleigh's on a cliff and the deer hanging off? What is it? I mean, you talk about Santa Claus and
you can't be divulging. We're not sponsored yet. We're not Disney Plus. If you're listening out there, I'd love for you guys to be sponsored.
It's funny. I was just thinking about movies this morning, about iconic movies, and like I'm thinking about the movies that have been out in probably the last 5 or 6 years, and they don't seem to be as iconic as the movies as like when we were kids. Like, do you guys remember Something About Mary?
No,
like
I was
okay. Yes. So if you haven't seen that, yeah, okay, the scene where like
it's a G-rated show, Dan.
Yeah, I know. But if you think about, so for anyone that's seen that movie, like Along Came Polly, Meet the Parents, like all these iconic movies that just have scenes that make you burst out like crying, laughing. And I don't know. I'm looking at the movies we have today, and it's like they just don't do it. I mean, maybe that's why Elf is on every single channel coming up to Christmas, right? Because
there's nothing like the old ones, man.
Well, but when you first saw Elf, it was actually really funny. It's annoying to me now, but it was really funny.
Like, I don't like Will Ferrell. I don't like.
Oh no!
Yeah, he's annoying, man. He's just like he goes for like those like cheap like laughs, like those like I don't know, those kid laughs. Like I just feel like his stuff is cheap. So I've always hated Elf, right? But you're so right, Dan, by saying that we don't have those like iconic movies that you can go back to those scenes because even for myself being sick, I really, really want to go see the new Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. But hey, man, I've been down for the count, and I'm like, oh man, when are we gonna be able to go see Wakanda Forever? But you look at all the Marvel
TV.
Sorry,
can you not rent it on like Rogers or something?
No. So
It's
it's
out yet.
still in the theaters. It's only been out for I
Yeah.
think since November, mid-November. So maybe
Yeah.
next month. I saw Black Adam's available to rent, but yeah, not Wakanda Forever yet.
That was actually a disappointment. It
Don't
was
say that.
to me.
I
Yeah,
I
it
saw
was
the
to me.
preview and I was like, nah.
Yeah,
It's
I thought it was going to be much better. I guess I didn't really understand the whole concept behind Black Adam, but they've set it up
Black
for
Adam.
yeah. Not
Oh.
not the Black Panther, Black Adam. But I think they've set it up for a pretty good number 2 or whatever that they're going to have coming out. So whatever. Anyways,
I don't know. I'll stick with Chevy Chase and Christmas Vacation, man.
okay. So here I got a question for y'all. Mayhem Monday. What's your favorite sales movie?
Okay, so I'll start with this one. So it's a tie. It's actually a tie between two movies. So for me, I got to go with the OG. Wolf of Wall Street will always be one of my favorite movies.
Yes.
Yeah, I just love what it's all about. Like basically start from nothing. But you know what? For me, I would say that's kind of like 1B. 1A for me is Pursuit of Happiness. I don't care what anybody says. That story of Will
Oh,
Smith.
yes. Will Smith. Yep.
And with it being actually a true story, right? And like going through those trials and tribulations, right? And it just reminds me a lot, just kind of betting on yourself, because a lot of people, if you haven't seen Pursuit of Happiness, go check it out, regardless of whatever you kind of think of. But and read the story as well. The gentleman who's the story's after, he makes an appearance at the end, right? But Pursuit of Happiness, man, I think it's one of the best movies. He took it as an internship, he grew it, he built it, and it's amazing to kind of see. So that those are my 1A and 1B.
I'll agree with that.
I would definitely agree with that. I think The Wolf of Wall Street, or I mean, the story behind it is insane. And then you have obviously The Boiler Room. Then you've got Glengarry Glen Ross. Like you got a couple, but definitely Pursuit of Happiness has to be number 1. A lot also because no matter what was happening, his positivity, right? You oftentimes, if you guys ever wondered when you're watching a true story in Hollywood, like what's real and what's Hollywood's put in, Lone Survivor was kind of the first movie where I asked myself, like what of this is really true and what isn't? And then you start finding podcasts that like Marcus Luttrell was on. He's saying, yeah, well, this isn't true. This actually happened when this, you know what I mean? And it's, you wonder, because in The Pursuit of Happiness, it's all about, like, he's telling his son, like, don't ever let anyone squash your dreams. If you really want it, you can get it. And like, remember when he was in the bathroom with his son sleeping and he's like holding the door closed with his leg, you look at those stories that really suck you into his life, right? And the positivity that this man maintained in the movie, I'm curious to see if that's the positivity that was maintained in real life, because that is unbelievable. I mean, you're at the bottom of the barrel and you didn't even bounce. Like you hit and you're like a dead cat. You just slam, right? And yeah, I don't know why that now. Anyways, and still super positive and still of the mindset. Because that's everything, right? I mean, those are 2 wicked choices, Ryan. Wicked choices. Those are good. And the Pursuit of Happiness.
And you know what's really funny about that? The Wolf of Wall Street. A gentleman that's going to join us on this show, he worked with him. And we don't have that much time to talk about it, but insane.
It's crazy you actually mentioned that, because I was doing some digging, I think it was a couple months ago, and I actually found like the actual playbook that I think it was something Stratton, whatever it was called, whatever, but the actual playbook that Jordan Belfort actually used to give to like new hires, and the things in there was like insane. It was just crazy commitments, right? And it actually, I love that you bring this up, Dan, because it actually it brings up a conversation that I had with an amazing person this morning, where we're talking about commitments, talking about he's a business owner, what do you expect out of agents coming in? And you're looking at Wolf of Wall Street and what he expects out of people came out of like nowhere. These are people who weren't into stocks, they weren't into anything else, but they basically kind of just, okay, here's the training manual, do it, study it up, and read. And how often do we kind of see that in sales, right? Like you can be so scripted and you could close customers. You can be not scripted and you can close customers. There's no formula to this, right? So
Yeah, it's
I
called the
think
unethical guide to selling.
it's pretty awesome to kind of see. So it's I think especially with that movie, I love Scorsese movies. I think he's probably one of the best directors of all time. So just kind of coming back to, I think, Wolf of Wall Street. I don't know if you guys were like the same, but like I wasn't able to like watch the whole movie in one sitting because it's a really long movie. It's like 3.5 hours, I think it is. So
Oh, I did.
to kind of digest it in like maybe like 2 parts or something like that. So
You just got
has
entrenched into it. It's like,
well, question for you guys, right? Like, have you ever watched a movie and it's like not even just sales, but any kind of like personal movie or anything like that, or even a TV show that's like made you inspired? Or like, I got to go do something about this, right? Like, what
Yes.
has that movie, like, Dan, if you want to kind of share that, like, what impact has a movie or a TV show had to you? Or like, I need to go do something right now, right after this.
The Matrix.
Okay,
It's
wasn't expecting
and
that.
I know it sounds crazy, but the philosophy and the idea of having these fake glass ceilings over you until you unplug, and then it wasn't. So it was The Matrix and Life of Pi, and I know it's probably two movies that everybody's like, what? But the Life of Pi, he created something in his mind to keep him alive. So, and he created something to take care of to keep him alive. And that's the way I see the movie. So we create things
sure,
in our lives, and we'll do more for other people than we'll do for ourselves. So that was one big message.
that's
And the Matrix,
that's the idea.
yeah, and the Matrix for me, and obviously the first one, not all of them, but the first one, because that was when like everything came to it. Neo got unplugged, and it was like, wow, you have so much more capabilities, so much more talent, so much more possibility in your life than 99.9 of us, 9% of us even think is possible. And that was the real message for the Matrix. I mean, don't get me wrong, the gun scenes were freaking cool in the first one, and there was like a whole bunch of really cool stuff. But the idea to be unplugged and all of a sudden to be able to bend time and space, like when you think about it for a second, right? You think about like Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, like Elon Musk, like Apple, like as a company, Apple, even Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs, yeah.
They bent what we saw as reality. They literally morphed it and created a new reality. Richard Branson, like all of these major people have created this new reality, and it's just, to me, that was the essence of the Matrix. What was yours?
I don't know. I know a few movies that I went there and it was 3.5 hours, and I fell asleep with my wife, and I said, I'll never watch another movie like that again.
That's a good thing. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I think it's a great topic to kind of like think about, because like I think for me, well, I kind of want to go back to your thing, what you said about it's like Steve Jobs, like change in reality, right? So when the first iPhone, the 3G came out, I was actually working in for Apple iPhone tech support for a third party company, and this was the first time this department was deployed because it was the first phone ever. And that excitement on day one that people were even for a couple weeks of like, oh my God, I got a phone. I got a calculator on here that I can kind of see. And I remember there was only like 3 games that you can get. I forget the names of the games, but just to kind of see it. Even Shazam. I don't know if you guys remember Shazam, where you can take your phone, listen to the radio, and it will tell you the song and everything like that. And the technology with that was like so evolving, right? And the biggest news out of Apple that we're kind of seeing is that with supply chain, they're actually looking to move like their facilities over to India and Vietnam, because they're not going to be able to keep up with the capacity of iPhones for the holiday season, right? So with them kind of like always kind of adapting with it, I think like with movies, the first thing I always kind of do is like, I just, especially when it comes to a true story, I like to kind of Google the story and be like, okay, what's real, what's fake, and what they kind of added to the movie, right? And
Agreed.
I don't know if you guys are the same, but it's like, it's weird to think about, right? Because you finish watching the movie, right? You see Arnold Schwarzenegger as Terminator. For that 30 minutes after the movie, I actually think Arnold Schwarzenegger is Terminator, right? There's no reality or expectation of like, hey, he's an actor or he's playing something. It's like, no, he is that guy, right? So I think for me, I like what you said about the Matrix, because having that that pop culture influence, like, I don't know. That summer, man, was crazy. You look at MTV Movie Awards and everything like that. Everyone's doing that, like that flip back scene, and they got the trench coats and they do all that stuff. So I think when it comes to movies and TV shows, they can inspire you to kind of either be a time waster, or they can actually inspire you to kind of do a little bit more.
Yeah, one thing though, two takeaways. You talk about the Terminator, and look how long ago that movie came out, right? Look at AI now, right? When you really think about it, right? That wasn't even on the in the scope of things back then, right? And then with Steve Jobs, right? The takeaway from that is that money, houses, planes, all that isn't that important when he came to the end of his life. And I read his story on that, you know, even though he was extremely successful, he wished that he could have turned it back and had more time with his family, which was the biggest takeaway from that. So it's not all about the millions and everything. It's about the balance of work and family life, you know, which he didn't really have because he was building an unbelievable corporation. So when you look at the biography of that guy and the whole story, that's the big takeaway from that, that money isn't everything. There's so much more that is worth more than cash, you know. That's the takeaway from that whole story there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you look at Steve Jobs, if you read his biography, that's for sure what at the end of his life, that's what it was, right? Like for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing that you should be thinking about now, depending upon where you are in your career and how you can, we talked about that many times about the life, you know, a family balance, you know, your personal, so forth and so on, that sometimes we just forget because we get so entrenched in what we're doing that you have to be at the dinner table at 6 o'clock to eat with your family. You take care of your kids, you help them with your homework, and then you find yourself up at 10 o'clock until 2 o'clock in the morning doing your thing with your business, you know, trying to sacrifice to make things work, you know. But then again, how detrimental is that to your own well-being of getting the proper amount of sleep, rest, all that kind of stuff too, when you're really juggling everything. So that's the biggest takeaway there.
I don't know about, well, Ryan, I think we'll find out. Jeff, I don't know about you, but come like grade 5, man, I wasn't any good with the homework. Like I didn't understand half the symbols that were coming out in math, and I'm like, why do you need to know this? You don't need to know this. And then the kids were like, I don't, and I'm like, well, I guess you do because school's teaching it to you. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's like hieroglyphics to me. Forget about it. I'm done. I'm done. Like it was literally grade 5 where I was like, yeah, you don't want to ask dad because you ain't going to get a good mark on that.
You're going to be like, hey, I should have plagiarized like my buddy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, and
yeah,
it's
mom's,
so right
mom's the genius of the family. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, you know, yeah, I always went to mom for like school stuff and things like that. And I like that you kind of said that with like family because, you know, how often I read a lot that people are like, you know what, when I get to 60, when I retire, I'll do all this traveling, I'll do all these things. And it's like, no, there's this like YouTuber he was actually a doctor. He was actually the head of doctor in UK. His name's Ali something. But he gave up being a doctor to become a YouTuber full time because he was making more money there. But he's like, what's the point of me bursting the hours 70, 90, 100 hours a week when I get no time with my family and I could maybe do 5 uploads a week on YouTube? Maybe that's like 20 hours a week and I got a better life balance, right? And one of the things that he talks about, he read this book was basically talking about that, hey, when people die, they give all this inheritance to like their kids and all this stuff. It's like, switch that around. Why not give them the money when they're in their 20s and their 30s so they can start a business or they can go after their goals instead of waiting till, let's call a spade, when you die, they'll probably be like 40, 50 years old themselves, right? So being able to invest in the time, because even for myself, Jeff, like you're hustler, Dan, you're a hustler and things like that. And I'm like, okay, I'm learning from you both that, hey, these are things I should do and things I shouldn't do because hey, I just want to enjoy life and understand that I'm not waiting for that cruise at 60. I want to take that cruise now. I want to go to Alaska now. You know, I want to go to Antarctica now. I don't want to wait till I hit a certain milestone. I'm ready to go now. So those are things.
We definitely think alike because that's exactly what I did. Is like, would you rather want to travel in your youth or when you're old? You know, you can't do the things that you can do when you're much younger. Like if you want to climb Mount Everest, you're going to do it much younger. You're not going to do it in your 60s, right? There's no way. Maybe some people can do that, but most can't. So, I mean, I did all my traveling, did all that stuff with the horses, everything when my daughter was young. I got it all out of my system, because that's the way I wanted to do things. That's a good thing, Ryan, to do that when you're younger, not when you're older, man. Get it out of your system, do it, go for it.
Yeah. We would budget every year X amount for travel, no matter what.
Yeah.
And it's and our kids have seen some pretty cool places, and there's more to come, and we've seen some pretty cool places. And I'll tell you, I mean, COVID was a big, we got to do things, we got to do it now, right? Like just from a general environment perspective, because, people were dying left, right, and center. And it's like, man, you don't want to die with the fire in you. You want to go out and see these places. And then when I got sick, it like compounded that.
And you know what? I something
you think about it, we can do our job from anywhere in the world.
Yeah,
you're a salesman, Ryan, right? You can do your job from anywhere if you had to. So it's not even as if you need to say I'm going on vacation. You'd be like, let's just screw off to Mexico for a week. I'm going to work from the beach. And you make 20 sales calls from the beach. And you like it's not just, see, it's designing your life around your everything else instead of your business designing your life, right? Or your career designing your life. You're designing the career and life and business that you love. And that means being able to go places and still work. Like I've worked from a cruise ship, and people say, well, why would you work on a cruise ship? It's because I got my feet up on the balcony. We're in the middle of the Caribbean Ocean. I'm happy. I'm good. I've worked from a beach. Like literally with, before wireless, where you had to like plug your headphones into your, and then you're like sitting right on that cusp where you still get the Wi-Fi from the resort, you know what I mean? But like Skype call, you do everything from anywhere you are. And it doesn't mean that you don't enjoy. You do. You just work a couple hours during the day and then you hang out for the rest of the time. I mean, it's that mentality that we have to pick up in business. And unfortunately, companies have to start picking up that mentality as well, because a lot of companies won't let you necessarily do that. Like, why only have 4 weeks vacation a year? Why can't you go away for a week every second month?
Right.
And still work.
Go every month. And I think, one thing I love having this conversation because I'm completely the opposite of it. Because I learned from a life experience, like the first company I worked at, where, hey, I went to Dominican with my now wife, and I was working like 6-7 hours a day. And I was like, no, never. So I make it a point, anytime I go on vacation, I'm unplugging. I don't care. My customers know it. I don't just pick up and leave. Like if I go away for a weekend, that's completely different. But if I've planned, Dan, you said this many times, and it's so true. It's, people plan what they want to go for vacation more than their whole life. Right. And for me, when we're looking at a resort, my wife and I, this is months of planning. So this is not spontaneous or anything like that. So no, I completely unplug. I'm the opposite of it. I will tell my customers like right away, as soon as I'm leaving, like, this is what happened. Here's the backup plan. And it's important to have backup plans, right? Because if you're a cradle to the grave, then you got to bring in somebody to kind of manage your business, because your business will die if nobody's watching it. Because that's when another carrier who's been logistics professional has been banging their emails, for a chance. They just want one chance. And when you screw up and you drop the ball, then you open that opportunity, right? But that's another conversation to be had. But for me, when I go on vacation, I unplug, because I just want to be there like 7 o'clock. We have breakfast. We're in the pool getting day drunk all day. We're doing all these different things. And I leave my phone, my work phone, literally in our safe. In our safe. So
now,
for me,
how many times do you go away a year?
We go away about 3-4 times a week. Sorry, not a week. My apologies.
So if you went away 6 or 10 times a year, you know what I mean? Your perspective might shift.
Yes.
And I'm not talking working 6-7 hours. I'm talking you check emails, you check in with the office. Okay, I'm gone for a couple hours. I'll check back in at 4 o'clock. You check back. You know what I mean? It's what you decide it's going to be, because you obviously have backup and everything. But if you're going away once a month, see, that vacation takes on a different perspective. It's like everything. It's like everything, right? It's when I first started in the business, I was traveling 3 weeks out of a month. Right. And so traveling for business after about 3-4 months took on a huge different perspective for me. It was normal, right? It was almost like the routine for me was dropping my dog off at my buddy Darren's and going. And now I couldn't imagine traveling, like not even close to traveling 3 weeks a month. Not even. We got a buddy that's pretty high up at Sherwin-Williams, and he's traveling every week. And they were over on the weekend, and it's like, and I'm listening to his schedule, and I'm like, not a chance would I do that. Not a chance. Not even for a split second would I consider it. I don't care how much money you would throw at me. It wouldn't happen. It would not happen. But then it's different perspectives, right?
Yeah. And you maximize it, right? Just with Jeff, right? Remember when Jeff went to Dallas, right? He maximized that work trip. He was there for what, less than like 48 or 72 hours, but he maximized it. So
less than 24.
There we go. See, and he maximized that completely,
In
right?
and out.
That's the one thing that's really important to kind of see. Like even with Jeff, like you're kind of mentioning about like vacation. What does vacation and like time away look like for you?
For myself,
Yeah.
it means everything. I mean, when I like I was saying before, every weekend we were gone with the horses or doing something. Every weekend I went on a mini vacation, hotels, everything, every Friday night. Or when I was showing dogs, I'd pack up my truck on a Friday night coming out of work, head up to London, Ontario, Canada, and go to a dog show, and then come back on Sunday morning. We were always
that's a big
traveling.
weekend.
Yeah,
That's a big weekend.
That's
a big weekend.
Yeah. And I mean, I would drive straight through, the islands up there, get on the 401, head all the way down there, and then get there at 1 o'clock in the morning, wake up at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and at the site, showing the dogs all day long, and then head back that night. We were always doing that. My daughter lived out of our van. I mean, we were always doing something as a family on that. A lot of people didn't have that opportunity, and we did it for about 18 years. So
that's tough on the old body.
Well, I'm just gonna say, like, we live in Ontario. You couldn't get me to drive to London, Ontario. So I can imagine, like, Jeff. But one thing that I've took away from Jeff kind of saying that is like, we're coming up to Christmas, and for me, for the past couple of years, what I've done is instead of buying things for people, I give them experiences. And with experiences, you get that story. Being able to say, hey, I sent someone away for, let's say, to a Mexico trip or to a Cuba trip or something like that. They'll have more memories from that than let's say like the new iPhone. Like who cares about the new iPhone they got for Christmas? So I think for me, the big thing is like, chase experiences, go try new things. And even if it's like cost budget or anything like that, go on like Groupon. There's so many like discounted, new things you can try, and, go try new things with your family, with your friends and things like that, because you're going to remember those things more than, like I said, the new computer that you bought, the new, something that that gives you that 5-second pleasure. And then you're like, okay, what's the next one?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know what, Ryan, that you said that, that's pretty remarkable for somebody your age. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah, that is.
that like my wife and I started talking about that maybe 5 years ago, like in our early 40s, where it was like, we want to start giving the kids experiences instead of stuff, because the stuff tends to break, or the stuff is used for 2 years, then they don't use the stuff anymore. And it's like an experience. And, our son was even saying the other day, he's like, even better, just give me a chunk of money that I can put away for a house. Just like our kids are grown up now. Like it's the things that they wanted are no longer necessarily that. Like we got our son for Christmas a trip to South Carolina to go golfing with his buddies. So he's going to remember that experience, right? And that's what we've been doing for the last couple of years is what is the experience they can learn from this and take away from it. Not necessarily learn from it, but take away from it. And, as a parent, my wife and I are always trying to add those kind of little life lessons in it where the kids learn something. So it's like, if we go away, what are we going to do? Like, so when we went on our cruise, it was like, okay, we went scuba diving here, where you can go through a lot of the ruins in St. Martin and this and that, right? Like, so they learned something, like these ships were actually sunk in wars, and it was like, oh, this is, and then the people on the boat are like telling you things, and it's like, oh, this is pretty cool, right? So those experiences we found were tenfold, because we'll still have dinner, and this was like 7 years ago, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is super cool, right? Our daughter doesn't talk about the princess castle we got her that took me 6 hours to put together. She doesn't talk about that princess castle. You know what I mean? And it's and as your kids grow, and you'll see this when you have kids, um, it's pretty interesting. I don't know about Jeff. Maybe it happened to you. I remember being in the car and looking in the rearview mirror and realizing my daughter's 10, not 5.
Oh yeah. Oh
And it's
yeah.
like, oh my God, I think I'm treating her like she's 5, but she's 10.
Yep.
And it's like you just kind of, holy crap. And they're older.
Understatement.
And then all of a sudden they're 20, and it's like, what the hell? Like, and you kind of look at yourself, you're like, what just happened? Because it's like, it feels like it's like this. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
One thing we did forget about, and there's not really any transition
Oh my
for
God.
it.
Nah,
I know.
you sucker. Boo.
I know. I'm thinking, and in the back of my head, thinking, how in the hell am I going to transition into this? Sorry, y'all. Usually we got a pretty good transition, and well, you know what? I'm just gonna blame it on Ryan because he's the king of transitions, and he's just recovering from the vid. So just give the man a break. But our lane of the day, sponsored by DAT, is Dallas, Texas to Atlanta, Georgia. Line haul rate per mile $1.54. Fuel surcharge all in is $2.19. Contracted rate is $2.84. So I bet you we're going to see a tightening of the gap between that contracted rate. Year over year, spot line haul rate per mile is actually 64 cents less. And there's been a recent rate jump in this as outbound capacity is tightened. The current rate is 15 cents higher. So we're 64 cents less than we were last year, and we're actually 15 cents higher than the November average. So that's your DAT lane of the day. And again, apologize for that horrible transition into that
Yeah,
one.
that was.
But if y'all notice, Ryan spelled his name wrong. So the transition, or do I spell my own name wrong? What? Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yo, I got a message this morning, 2 minutes before the show, saying, "Hey, are we having a show today?" So pull up Lisa's comment there. I think that's so remarkable, and I think it's something that we all should kind of like look towards, right? And she kind of says here, no, the last one, the podcast one, that one was spectacular.
I think is it or a podcast?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
So Or podcast happened to her, and she jumped up and sent an email. So we're kind of going back to the thing of like, has there been a movie or a TV show that made you take action or do something, right? And now she's heading to Rwanda with the founder of a company that she reached out to, right? And it's amazing kind of see. So congrats, Lisa, first of all, for doing that, because you're able to. You don't know what our industry can bring. Like look at that. Like hey, she's going to Rwanda. Think about that. Like ask Lisa. Like Lisa, have you ever been to Rwanda in your life? Probably no. Right. And being able to take action from that's remarkable. So kudos to you, Lisa. I thought that was.
And Daman says an agent is building build a business versus building a job. Just make that decision on where you want to see yourself in the future. Be prepared to put in the work to make it happen. And
absolutely,
that I think is the fault line. Right. And if we look at this, it's everybody has these dreams and desires. Lisa says, nope, never. It's going to be a pretty cool experience. Everyone has these dreams and desires. They say, I want to do this. I want to do that. But when they realize the amount of work, the amount of effort that needs to go into it, I don't know. For me, I see this instantaneous idea where it's like, I'm going to create this, and like within 3 months, I'm going to be filthy rich. And then it doesn't happen, and they get down, and then all of a sudden they're back to the norm or whatever.
Not
right?
Going to happen.
It's like Daman says, you got to put in the work, and you got to 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 work. And that doesn't mean 24 hours a day.
No.
That just means, Jeb Blunt says it great in his new book, Selling in a Crisis. And we're going to be actually having Jeb Blunt on the show on the 23rd.
Nice.
So it'd be a great show. But one thing he says is, like, here's the thing. There's golden hours. And what you do and how you show up in the golden hours is what matters. Because the reality is you're in sales. Come 6 p.m., there's very few traffic managers answering the phone. Now, you have an argument if you lived on the East Coast, because I used to do it. I'd be at the office till 8 or 9 p.m. because I'd call the West Coast.
Right.
You can do that, right? Yeah. You can do that, but if you do, and Ryan, I'm gonna shout you out on this, because you were one person that from day one when I asked you, what keeps you up at night? And you said, Dan, nothing. I work as hard as I can during the day. So when I put my head down at night, I know I've done my best. And shout out to you, my friend, because out of all of the people I've asked that question to, you were the one that changed my mind on what was possible during the day by just saying that to me. So thank you. And it's true. When you do absolutely everything you can, and you just put your heart, your soul, everything into your career and what you want to build and what you want to achieve during the day. And I don't care if that's for 3 hours because that's all you can work because you have something else going on in your life, or if that's 6 hours or if that's 8 hours. But when you're in it 1,000%.
Yep.
You can always walk away with your head high and always walk away knowing you've done the best you can do and you've skilled up. And that's really all life is don't look for the shortcut. Do
the work.
Make it happen. And now, some people say, well, Dan, there's shortcuts. Yeah, there is. I'd much rather lynch onto somebody that's been there before and get it done in half the time. But I'm learning from their mistakes, right? This is where coaches come in. This is where mentors come in. This is where, communities come in. This is where programs come in because you're like, well, I've never done it before. Well, they have.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I would much rather model what works and take that or shave that time off, not the shortcut.
Yep.
But I'm talking the shortcut where it's like, well, kind of like in trucking, shortcut safety. Eventually something's going to happen. And it's going to be bad.
Oh yeah. It's just a matter of time.
Right. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents for the Monday, boys.
Yeah, no, I think one thing, especially when you're talking about Jeb Blunt, if anybody hasn't read Fanatical Prospecting, that's where it comes from. So like if you're kind of like in a slump or you're kind of going through something, read that book or even listen to the audiobook on Audible. And he talks about that. You protect your golden hours no matter what. You turn off your email, you turn off Slack, you turn off everything, and you practice on those fundamentals that you put in the work every single day. And when Dan, you kind of mentioned hey, what keeps me up at night? And it's I used to be so stressed. So this wasn't my mindset from day one. I used to be so stressed, especially my first 2 jobs. Like, oh my God, am I going to get fired? Did I make enough calls? Did I do this and whatever? And then when I started understanding hey, you got to control the controllables. And we talk about that a lot. So I won't get into it, but it's like, I've given okay, I was away sick last week. Like I was literally in bed all day, but hey, if I sent out one email today, that's a win for me. If I did one phone call with a raspy voice, that was a win for me, right? And it's these little things that they compound. We're looking, like we said, we got only a couple days until the new year, and then when you write down your goals, a lot of people are gonna have the same thing. Hey, I want to lose weight. Okay, no, change that mindset. I want to drink 2 liters of water a day. I want to eat a high protein diet every single day. Those are the actual tools to actually get you to what your actual main goal is, right? So thank you for sharing, man. I think it's awesome. I love how we deviated from your favorite sales movie to this amazing discussion, but it's awesome to kind of see what this actually takes fold and having a genuine conversation with you, gents.
Well, something just real quick. It's all about mindset. There's a huge difference from I want to I will.
Yeah.
Huge difference. Huge difference. It's I want to lose. No, I will lose weight. You got to.
And Jeff, I don't even know if it's that. It's I will make 2023 the year where I'm in the best physical shape of my life. Because losing weight, you can disperse weight in different areas and still be very healthy, right?
Right.
If we get into this whole diet thing, it's a lifestyle change. It's not a diet. And I think it's a lifestyle change in business. If you want to go after that goal, it's a lifestyle change. You have to say, okay, I'm getting up and I'm going to be at those golden hours, like Ryan said. And, Ryan, when you were talking just there, I've realized I've got a big thing to work on. Because for me, I've lived it for the last couple of months. I'll send one email. I'll do one meeting. And I'll wake up, I'll go to bed at night going, I didn't win today. And you just changed it where you're like, man, if I got one email, it's a win. And I need to change that mindset because there were times over this year where I was incapable, no matter what. You'd have to put a hockey stick down my shirt and duct tape me up just so you're, you're standing straight. And I felt if I didn't get A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K done, it was a loss, and I was a loser. And that for me is I mean, for anyone going through that right now, I feel your pain, because it is so tough to change that perspective. Like, unreal tough. I'm still having a huge issue with it. And I'm actually really jealous that you just said, I sent one email. I'm like, that's a win, man.
Well,
I wish I could.
Like it brings up something that you just said maybe like 5 minutes ago. Like we're talking about logistics, right? So you're going through the struggle. This is where you find somebody who's been through it. You go through their blueprint and you latch onto them, right? And that's exact. And then they take you to the moon, right? So it's just not logistics. It's just not sales. It's our personal life. Like even for myself, it's like, how do I be a better husband? How do I be a better son? Be a better brother? Well, there's so many resources out there that I can go and find and go from there and just take it one day at a time, and that's what's important. Like as kind of Jeff kind of talking about, like, the mindset is extremely important. So
it's everything.
Just understand we're a work in progress, man. That's the one thing that keeps me going, guys, is like I'm an ongoing student. I'm never gonna be perfect, and like Jeff says, like you're never gonna get to the top of logistics and that's it. No, you always have to kind of like just be continuously learning every single day.
Yep, every single day, man. Every day.
Beauty. Take us out, Rye.
Let's do
all right. I know you brought us in here, brother, but I've been doing the whole since you've been gone. Wherever the dingy bell is, just dingy, hit it. Dingy,
yeah,
dingy,
I saw it, but I think for us, we want to thank everybody for coming out this morning. Jeff, Dan, so happy to be back with you guys. It's kind of like this is gonna be my win for the day, even if I go lay down in bed and be sick all day, but this is my win for the day. So I want to thank everybody for coming out this morning. Lisa, Daman, love seeing you guys active in the comments. Looking forward to seeing everybody hit the replay at 12 and 3 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share this with somebody who you think that, hey, maybe they need to see Jeb Blunt's new book, or they need to hear about Dan's favorite movies, or hear about Jeff's treks to London, Ontario every weekend. Definitely.
I still can't believe you'd leave Jersey and go to London, Ontario for that.
I know, right?
I honor you for that, because that's like,
that's commitment.
One of the greatest horse farms is up there, North Winds.
See,
where Native Dancer is buried up there. Yep.
The more you know. So definitely check us out: LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter as well. Join us for tomorrow. We got a jam-packed episode. We got an amazing week coming up ahead for you guys. So looking forward to seeing everybody. Take care, everybody.
Have a good day.
Centurion Trucking, our motto is people before profit. Today's market requires more transparency, consistency, and focus on what our clients need to win. Centurion Trucking and American Logistics are poised to help their clients achieve and surpass their targets. If you're looking for a team that honors your needs, dreams, and aspirations, then get a hold of Daman at American Logistics or Centurion Trucking and start designing your